Hi, it's Todd Bank with Prairie Edge Service. I want to give you some tips and tricks today in dealing with the thinning shear, and today we're just going to talk about the tooth blade. A couple of elements just to understand about the thinning shear, and I'm not talking about no-line blenders. This is just a thinning shear. So the thinning shear has a little notch in here. That notch is really important. So you really want to eliminate or do as little work that's going to remove or cause problems where the tooth or that groove is removed. So the simple aspect of sharpening the thinning shear is most of the work is done on the inside. The inside edge, for the ones that have the rideline, you work the rideline up and bring it up to the top. Now remember, you've got probably less than 50% of the metal, so when you're working the rideline will go much quicker and it doesn't need as much pressure to reform the rideline as a regular blade. Once you have the rideline worked up and you're flipping around to the other side, the whole goal on the face of the tooth is to hold hair so that the cutting blade, when it comes down, is going to cut whatever hair is being held. That's where the groove is so important. And when it comes to trying to deal with this, you want to make sure that the shear, the tooth face, is holding the hair. What will happen a lot of times is there's damage done by overuse or by being dropped, and now you've got some huge nicks. You can see them from this side. If you're looking, you can see some huge nicks and stuff like that. So occasionally you may want to turn around and resolve some of those issues on the outside. How do we go about doing that? And that's really what the whole process of this. When you first do the inside, it's always less is more. Assemble the shear after you've sharpened the other blade and just see how the cutting performance is. If you need to fine tune or get rid of some of those nicks, how do we do that? And the process is, don't take it to a twice sharp. Don't take it to any mechanized. Just use your either a red honing stick or a white honing stick. I always use the white honing stick. And the hard part is how do you put your honing stick on there so that you are not rounding out the edge. And there's a little trick to this. If you take the thinning shear and rotate the angle so we can see the light is being reflected off the teeth there. You can see we're on the top here. We roll it around until the teeth are reflecting the light. And if we turn around and place our honing stick on there, we can see the light reflects off the honing stick. When you have the light falling down on top of the teeth, you've now got the top surface is in parallel to the bottom surface, which means your honing stick is now in the same plane as the surface of the tooth. So it's very simple. You just get the light reflected off your teeth, you place your honing stick, you get the light falling down on top of the teeth, and you hold everything. You lock each of the angles in and you just go back and forth. And as you're working it, you can actually see which part is shining up. If you're at the back, you've got to tilt it too far back. If you're doing too much at the front, you're better off to start at the back and slowly work your way. So you want the light on this side because that's tilting down away from the top surface, and roll into it. If you have the light too far above, that means you're rolling over the edge and rounding the edge. So you're always better off to have the light right on it or slightly towards your fingers when you're holding it, and slowly work. And you don't need much because there's not a lot of surface area to these teeth. Once you do that, you can feel a bit of a burr come up. And to deal with that burr, just take your hone and just run it down. You can push towards the outside. Make sure it's flat along the bottom of the blade, because you don't want to be rounding over the top that you just honed. And all you do is just run that down. You're basically trying to push that burr to the outside and get it to flex. Once the burr is flexed, you want to take a coarse bristle brush, or not so much coarse, it's just stiff, and you're going to work down. You can work towards the tip, away from the tip, different angles, flip it over, and push that burr back and forth multiple times, and you're basically trying to work hard and get that little fleck of metal to break off. Once you do that, just turn around and you'll feel how much grab the teeth have now. And as soon as you feel that grab, that means the burr has been removed. So go ahead and assemble the shear and test it again, and you should find a huge change in performance. So the key element to this is less is more. Work the inside ride line, apex that, try it. If you need to, reface the outside just with a honing stick, and then manage to try to get all that burr removed. Most of the time when you sharpen and it starts folding it, it's because you've still got a burr. I hope this was helpful, and I wish you success, and I hope you find it easier to sharpen and have greater success with sharpening of thinning shears. Thanks again. Have a great day.